those words of wisdom, Beo-Nerd continued towards the den of Elgar. He walked for the remainder of the day. As the sun began to set, Beo-Nerd rounded a corner and stood before Elgar's den. Not wanting to risk a fight in the dark, he retreated back to find a place to camp. As the night grew long, Beo-Nerd fell into terrible sleep. He dreamed of Elgar running at him and ripping his head off. Beo-Nerd awoke with sweat on his brow and cowardice in his heart. But thinking of that prize, he reluctantly got up and began to prepare himself for battle. He turned and headed back towards Elgar's den. As he approached the den, he drew his sword and said in a loud voice,
"Elgar, come out and fight!"
Beo-Nerd waited for a few seconds and almost wet himself. Elgar stood for what seemed like an eternity until he reared his head to the sky and roared. Then without pausing, he sprang at Beo-Nerd and ripped his sword in half. Beo-Nerd let out a scream that would have shamed a little girl and ran back the way he came. After Beo-Nerd was sure that Elgar was not following him, he stopped to catch his breath. As Beo-Nerd stood looking at the sky, a sense of shame fell over him. He had never stood up to Elgar for even a second.
What am I useful for?
Beo-Nerd stood up and saw a black cylinder sticking up from the ground. He went over to it and attempted to pull it up from the ground. But unfortunately for him, he could not. As Beo-Nerd grasped the cylinder, a sense of confidence flowed through him. He pulled the cylinder out of the ground one more time and realized that it was not a cylinder, but in fact, a sword. A transformation flowed through Beo-Nerd. His nerdiness and wimpiness were wiped away, and the new Beo stood in the shoes of the old Beo-Nerd.
How you doing? I shall now be called Beo.
With his new air of confidence, Beo strode towards Elgar's den. As he approached it, he drew his sword once again and shouted to the sky.
Elgar, come out!
Elgar appeared and walked towards Beo, snarling. Elgar charged yet again, but this time Beo was ready, as he grabbed the monster's head and cleaved it from its shoulders. The body slumped to the ground, and finally, Elgar was slain.
Beo hurried into the den of the beast and found the princess bound in a corner. Beo slit the bonds and freed the princess.
Thank you, you saved my life.
You're very much welcome. Let's get you back to the castle.
Okay.
For 3 days and nights, Beo walked back to the castle of King Quiglac, the horns of Elgar head high and the princess close behind, often having to rest for the princess's sake.
Beo and the princess approached the castle.
A lookout sounded the horn. Beo raised the horns of Elgar and shouted,
I am Beo, slayer of Elgar. Please notify the king of my coming. Diet Pepsi, the official sponsor of Beo-Nerd.
Would you like some Pepsi, Mr. Bell? Yeah, that's awesome.
That's good Pepsi. That night, there was a huge banquet for Beo. Anyone was there. There were gifts and treasures for Beo. The hall was filled to them. The king broke open the soda storage, and the bubbly drink flowed into every cup. After every cup was filled, the king stood and raised his cup and toasted.
To Beo, you have vanquished Elgar from my land. You shall be honored in this castle until a new king is crowned, starting with the marriage of my daughter. Never will you have to lift a finger. You will be now a full-fledged royal.
What about you, Claire? You need anything special?
Beo!
Beo!
Beo! Yeah! The next day, Beo and his princess were married. The ceremony was held outside under the trees. After their wedding, the couple departed for their honeymoon. They had 7 children. 6 were just like their mom. But one was different. Unnatural.
He was a nerd! No, we did that again.
Beo hurried into the den of the beast and found the princess bound in the corner. Beo slit the bonds and freed the princess.
Thank you, you saved my life.
Okay, sorry. Were you recording that?
No.
You sure?
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Yeah. A transformation flowed through Beo-Nerd. His nerdiness was wiped away, and the new Beo stood in the old shoes of Beo-Nerd.
How you doing? I should not be called. I should not be called. That's how I should have talked as a nerd. I should not be called Beo.